Welcome everybody to the circle. My name is Brian Piergrossi. Great to be with you, whether you're here live with us or tuning in some other moment in time. And I'll tell you a couple quick things that are happening. So we have the Big Glow Retreat, one day Big Glow Retreat, just a little over a week away. It's pretty much full, but we can squeeze you in if you still want to come, and that's at our place. uh, 6 acres in this beautiful location in Southwest Virginia, kind of a sanctuary for us. So good chance to meet each other, connect with each other in person as well. So really looking forward to that. And I'm doing personal coaching sessions, ongoing couples coaching, group coaching. So if you feel interested in that, just reach out and let me know. Speaking of which, I was doing pretty much all masculine feminine polarity coaching today, and it's such a important topic that that's our topic for tonight that we're gonna go into, and I'll lay out a few things and we can discuss for a little bit. I'm really happy that Annie's here with me. We were saying before we went live that a lot of times she's putting Joe to bed right now, so she can't. She's here, but she can't participate verbally too much or at all. So this feels like a topic where it's nice to have a man and a woman or a husband and a wife discussing this topic. So that feels good. So grateful you're here, Annie. And let's look into this. So the masculine and the feminine, men are generally masculine, not always. Women are generally feminine, not always. So I will generally talk about men and women, but just so we're all clear, there are some exceptions to those generalizations as we move forward. So we'll kind of look at, how we define these terms, and then we'll look at how they function together optimally and how they don't function together optimally, and kind of where we're at culturally and where we want to be going culturally. Those are the things that the things we'll quickly move through. So first, we'll go with the masculine. So the masculine is the directive energy. The masculine creates the structure. The masculine creates the organization. I've heard the masculine described as, if you think of the feminine as like the water of a river, the masculine is like the banks of the river. It creates the direction and the movement. It's the structure. Um, Masculine energy is has a purpose, has a direction, has a goal. Um, Masculine energy is really fueled by challenge, which is different than the feminine energy. We'll get into that in a moment, but that's um, that's a function of the masculine energy. The masculine energy is uh, intellectual, so rational, analytical, and those are some things. Now, the feminine energy would be, as they used to say, the opposite sex. So it would be the opposite polarity, right? So where the masculine energy is intellectual, rational, analytical, the feminine energy would be operate more from intuition and feeling. So kind of move more from that place. Feminine energy is more receptive. The feminine energy is more in a space of flow. Annie, this is where you can help out and contribute if you'd like to
Mhm.
unmute yourself. Um, I think the feminine energy also creates the beauty, right? So when I say that, I don't mean just physically. I mean architecture, art, music, poetry. And just to be clear too, we all have masculine energy and feminine energy, right? So just if you think of that yin yang symbol, we may have predominantly, most people have predominantly a masculine energy or a feminine energy, but we all have both, right? If you don't have both, then you're like probably psychopathic and should be stayed away from. But most everybody has both, and there's a proper balance within oneself in that space. Um, Anything you want to contribute to that, Annie?
Um, not not totally, but I that's what I was gonna say was when
Hmm.
describing, masculine and feminine, just how it's important to also acknowledge the that each gender does have both.
Hmm.
And there's circumstances where the feminine might need to be that directive, and that's okay. It's not like,
The woman,
what did I say?
the feminine, the feminine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's circumstances where the masculine, the man, it's required for like that softness and that receptivity so that he can receive maybe more of the directive um, communication or emotion that is coming from the feminine. So it's like this play, it's like a dance. And of course, like what Brian's pointing out, like we're predominantly one or the other. Now, I'm just saying that there can be definitely exceptions, but like I'm predominantly more feminine. But yeah, just it's that play, and then you add kids and you add life, and it gets really, really interesting, right? So, yeah, I'm just glad to be here, and I'm happy to be exploring.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of so many different interesting facets, something that we've talked about a lot. And I think for us, we're always in communication about keeping that polarity dynamic. So if you think of I think a great example is a battery. So the battery has the polarity of you have the plus sign on the one side and the negative sign on the other side, right? So you have the two polarities, and the two polarities create a battery. It creates this dynamic energy in between, right? And that's the creative energy. That's like the life force that fuels everything. And that's the masculine and feminine energy. It's like the two together when they're in that proper polarity, it's the creativity, it's what brought us all into the world, right? That they're coming together, the masculine and feminine polarity. It's the energy, it's the life force, it's what makes everything move, everything happen. There's a dynamic quality there. And so when I'm thinking about a person, so an individual, even though an individual will most likely be predominantly masculine or feminine, they will have a proper balance within themselves that's present, right? That's necessary. So they feel grounded, they feel centered in themselves. And like Andy said, one can be more necessary at a particular moment in time. So one can be more activated if you're tending to a baby, you might be more naturally going into the feminine energy. If you're you know, CEOing a corporation, you might be going more into the masculine energy, and you can kind of, move back and forth as different situations arise. But that dynamic quality is in the person, and then it goes into a relationship. So a couple. By the way, this is true. I've found for heterosexual relationships or homosexual relationships. Still, there's always a masculine and feminine polarity happening between the two that's present. And so you're looking in the space, and your sense of like, is there that polarity that creates that dynamic quality, that creative energy, that it's kind of a sense of feeling at rest and at home, but also really alive and alivened as well and connected. And then you could turn it out into a family. Is there polarity in the family that has that dynamic quality? Then you can look at a culture. You know, Does the culture have that polarity, that dynamic polarity? So it becomes a really fascinating subject and kind of looking how it's changed and shifted um, over time as well, is something I've been looking at. And we've kind of gone through this period with the rise of so-called feminism. We can explore what that actually is and what that actually isn't. But with the rise of the kind of like maybe like late 60s, early 70s, this kind of idea that we're all the same. Um, doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. We're kind of interchangeable. And in the conversations that I've been having, that I've been connecting with, there's this awakening from both women and men that this has not been a healthy thing. This has been good in the sense that it gave people some freedom. So if you're more of a masculine woman, um, some opportunities open for you that weren't there before. If you're more of a feminine man, some opportunities open to you that weren't there before. But for most people, um, to be able to really be in that space of polarity that hasn't really been honored and acknowledged in a way that I think people are waking up to and having conversations about and exploring how they can really step into their power in a true, authentic way. So there's kind of been this idea that power is the way I kind of perceive things, the way they look to me in the culture is there's kind of this idea that when people think of power, first of all, they think of power of being a bad thing. It's number one. But secondly, they think of power of being a masculine thing. So if you want power, you take the masculine energy and in going into the masculine energy, you become powerful. And I would say that is the way for people who have a masculine essence, but there's also the feminine power, which is equally powerful, but it has a whole different way of operating. So if you think of the masculine energy as kind of like, you know, kind of moving outward and moving towards a goal, the the feminine energy draws in. I think of the feminine energy as like a flower, and it's the flower's just this beautiful thing that's in bloom, and it just draws. So it's almost like if when you're really in the feminine power, it almost feels like you're doing nothing. Everything's just coming to you. Everybody's available to you. Everybody's working for you, right? And I think that's a power that we don't realize quite often even exists or is even a thing that's there. Because um, it's more hidden, right? Even if you think of female genitals, the male genitals are more overt, obvious, easy to see, goes outward. The feminine genitals go inward, right? So what's happening is not as easy to see, but they're both equally powerful, right? In their own way. So to kind of just start to look at this and explore this and how it works together and how it can be dynamic is just a really powerful thing to start to realize because you'll start to notice you'll be in a room, you'll be in you'll be like, oh, the polarity's off here. Things aren't. So I'll give you a couple ways of the way that it doesn't work well, and then we can go into to open up if anybody has anything that they want to share. So if you have an imbalance with the feminine without the masculine energy, it'll be extremely chaotic. It'll feel like nothing's happening, nothing's getting done, you're not going anywhere, and it can kind of feel like, particularly if you're a masculine essence, it'll feel very frustrating. Like what is the point of this? Um, and then it can even be that's like it can even go to more problems from there. But that's kind of the general sense. You won't have that sense of direction, that sense of goal orientation. If you have a masculine energy without the feminine energy, then it's like everything's very controlled, everything's very um, like I don't know what the word would be, but it lacks any kind of life force or vitality or creativity or innovation. Um, it's very like a totalitarian state is the way I kind of like feel it, without any color or life or I'm picturing like a very like gray, drab, overcast sky, totalitarian state where everyone kind of looks the same and dresses the same and is, do it, almost robotic, right? Um, so when you have the integration of the two, you do have organization, you have structure, you have leadership, you have things happening at certain times, things are scheduled, but you also have this life force, this creativity, this innovation, this beauty, this aesthetic. And the combination of the two is like, it's like, oh yeah, that's where it's like fully optimized, fully actualized. This is the way we're designed to live. This is the way we're designed to come together and create together. And the two polarities working together uh, make that happen and manifest that. And so that's why, we are generally drawn to the opposite polarity in relationship to kind of bring that dynamic polarity together. And we'll seek that out. We'll seek that balance of the polarity also in if I should say we will seek it if there's not trauma or if there's not things that we're avoiding or we're afraid of or we have pain around. We'll seek that balance in larger context too of community settings and so forth. Annie, any contributions to any of that?
I always just go to relationally, like that's just how my mind feels and thinks about all of this, like polarity topic. So I feel like, because you were speaking about how the masculine, the man is usually the directive, and you did touch on this for sure, but um, it's not. It's interesting because if the feminine, the woman is in her power, although it may be like a soft power, but she's clear and she knows herself and she's like surveying the land. It's actually like in a balanced dynamic. The man is actually gathering that first from the woman. So she's in a way, she's also directing the energy. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's like a balance there. She's providing the information and then the man can make the plan
Yep.
based on. So it's like the feminine, even though the masculine in many ways the man we can say leads,
Yep.
the woman actually also simultaneously is leading. So it gets kind of fun in that way.
Yeah, when it's working properly, when it's working ideally, the masculine is making the plan, it's creating the structure, but the masculine is being informed by the feminine who's connected to the intuition and the feeling and the connection. I've heard people talk about there'll be a group of um like a situation where there's all women or there's all men. And even within those contexts, there'll be some of the people will be kind of the leaders of directing and creating things, structure, and then some of the people will just naturally gravitate to more of the feeling, the connection. And that's another really important point is the feminine, the gift of the feminine is the connection. How's everybody feeling? Is everybody feeling okay? Is anybody feeling left out? Are we all feeling like we're together, like we're a part of this together? So I think of the feminine as like horizontal, like it's like this. It's keeping everybody connected, you know. And the masculine, I think it was the vertical. The masculine is like, you know, we can do better. Let's go somewhere more awesome. Let's make this, let's make America great again. Like all this kind of stuff is like this is like the masculine energy, right? But it's interesting because like what happens is if people are tuned into the feminine, they'll feel like, okay, there's all this vertical energy, but you're not considering people's feelings. You're not considering how people are, right? So then, but the other side will be like, all this talk about people's feelings, but we're not going anywhere. We're not improving. We're not getting. So it's like somehow it's the balance of the both that that makes it happen and makes it work. Um, and then, an example that I think of a lot is like the way the masculine and feminine, if you think of the masculine as like the masculine wants to like, literally has drive, drive, ambition. So the masculine is like going down the road, going down the street, and the feminine is like the stoplights. So the feminine's like, stop, you're going too fast, slow down. So you get stop. Okay, you stopped. Okay, turn right. Okay, yield. So it's like, but if you're the masculine, you ignore those signals, then the feminine's like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. You're not listening to me, right? So when it's working together, the masculine has to feel the masculine trusts the feminine. So it looks like the masculine's driving, but actually the masculine is like Annie said, is like listening to the guidance of the feminine for where to go. And the feminine feels like the masculine is listening. So then the feminine trusts the masculine to drive.
Hmm.
And the two are working together in that way. One more example I'll put out is so I like this one too. The indigenous tribes in America, they'd want to meet the leader, and the leader would be the chief, you know, which would always be a man, and so they would meet with the chief. They would meeting like the Europeans, and they had this idea that like the chief was the leader, so he could just like tell them what to do. But the
Medicine woman.
the chief would say, um, it doesn't work like that, actually. Like, I need to confer with primarily the grandmothers.
Yeah.
So the grandmothers were actually like the ones who would guide the tribe, and the chief was just like the face, the representative of the tribe, right? And I
Hmm.
think that's the way it works a lot, is the masculine is like the one that puts themselves out there as the leader, but a good leader will be informed by the wisdom of the feminine. And then
Hmm.
we're operating in this dynamic way.
I think about it too reflected in nature and like packs of wolves or whatever. Like wolves are like it's like the female mama or the grandmother wolf is like she's like the head of that pack, although she might not be the biggest or the strongest. She might not be out there like doing the protection. She might not be out there always killing and bringing the food back to the pack or whatever, but she actually is like with her energy and her way, protecting all the land. And I just love wolves, um, for that just example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of something really important too, which is for the feminine to be connected to the feelings, to be connected to the intuition, the feminine needs to be relaxed. This is like the most fundamental thing. In fact, in the session I was talking about earlier today, it was like relaxed and well rested.
Hmm.
So relaxed and well rested. And so the one of the primary jobs of the masculine is to protect the feminine so she can feel relaxed and rested. And then she can access the intuition uh, uh, that helps inform the masculine to make decisions and direct things.
Hmm.
So I think that's another really key thing.
And then has the energy to care for the children,
Yeah.
which you know is a balance too between both. But
Yeah, and I think a masculine man, too much relaxation is not good. Definitely it's important. It's primary, especially if you're feeling like overwhelmed or exhausted and so forth, right? But I think the masculine man needs to feel some um, challenge to feel most alive. So I think again, like the combination of the two. But then he needs like a rest, and he wants to relax with his feminine counterpart.
I've always really admired when, a man is when he has a sense of strength and self-control, and you feel like he's maybe strong enough that he could force situations, but when he doesn't, and when he's calm and in control, to me, that's really attractive.
I think that's another great one is calm. I think the masculine. Now, I say that I'm not saying that the man can't have any emotions. I think it's important to have to being connected, in touch and connected to your emotions.
Yeah.
But as far as like attraction of masculine feminine polarity, I think the feminine is generally attracted to a man that feels grounded, and centered. And yeah, there's a sense of safety in that. And then she
Mhm.
can she can be more in her full emotional bandwidth.
Brian, when you were talking about the masculine driving down the highway,
Yeah.
um, you know, basically with the destination in mind and the
Yeah.
feminine being the stoplight. I'm just curious, how many of us on our GPS systems have a female voice versus a male voice?
Must
Because mine are always female.
I think it is female. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. Is
be
that,
something to that.
yeah, that may be the default setting for most GPS systems, but if it wasn't, I definitely change it.
I think it is. I think it is the default, probably for good reason.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do notice on trips with men that often they will have that goal in mind, like they want to get there at a certain time, and then they're preoccupied with where they're going. And I'm like, oh, look at that. Let's stop right there. Oh, over. Oh, that would be cool.
Yep.
Hmm. Oh.
Yeah, and I think that's just it. I think that's the balance of like the feminine is gonna bring attention to, the roses and the flowers and the trees and the clouds and so I think the masculine can really appreciate the feminine in that way, basically the beauty.
Mhm.
And then but then without the masculine, you might be like, oh, it's 12 hours later and I've gotten 2 miles, this is not good. I need some help. I need some help.
Yeah, and we each
Um,
have it inside us too. I mean, I know I have certain days where I'm really goal oriented and I have a list of things that I really want to get done. And then I'll have a day, well, especially lately, I kind of hurt myself physically a while ago, so I have to take a rest, but part of me just is like, oh, I just want to relax. Today I laid out on our deck in the sunshine, and fell asleep, and it just felt so good to not push myself.
Was somebody else
But
going to say something?
yeah, hi. I was just going to discuss something that I've noticed and worked through with the masculine and feminine, especially with being like a single mother for so long. You kind of assume roles of both. And then once you get into a relationship with a partner who is a strong masculine, like allowing them to be that masculine and allowing them to fulfill that role is sometimes hard because you're so used to doing both. So I think over the time with, me and my partner and my now husband, sometimes I have to like look at it and like, okay, maybe I can like lay back a little bit and let him take the reins or however you say it to allow him to, I don't want to say feel in control, but in a sense, or for lack of a better word, like feel in control and allow him to be that masculine partner that is important and that I do want. So I don't know, that was just something that crossed my mind that I've talked about with other women, single moms and things like that. And that I've noticed come up in my relationship. Um, and I think in general, I have honestly, I have more masculine energy, but I do have a strong proportion of masculine energy. So allowing it to be balanced out.
Yeah, trust, I think, is really a key component. I think even if you're not, whether you're a mom or you're not a mom, like being a single woman, like there's a single woman that I've worked with, and it's like you have to, like, if there's no space for the man to enter, you know, like, and I'm saying, I mean that like energetically, right? Then like, because what happens, I think, is women, if they're single for a while, they're very used to being independent, and so sometimes they don't like create the space for the man to enter because the all of this stuff is happening. Like, sure, there's words and those, but all this stuff happens energetically, you know. So single single woman, man man, meets him at the cafe or whatever. He might not even know that she's single because she's not creating the space. Does that make sense to like let him into direct potentially, right? But she has to trust him to do that, right? So if she doesn't trust him, then she's not going to allow that. So that's kind of like the initial dance, right? But I think when you're dating, like if you're a man, you can kind of feel if like a woman's making a space for you or not, space for you. I mean, I think with Annie, I definitely felt that, and that was really like powerful dynamic for us is she was just there's this I don't know. I told the story before, but I don't think I've told it in a while. All right, so you guys might not have heard it, but this was like one of the first times we met. We were in Bali. We were at this cafe, and then in Bali, they most people ride mopeds or motorcycles to get around, but I didn't have one, and I wasn't really familiar with riding one. I just started to try a little bit the day before. So I mentioned it to her, and then she was like, "Oh, I have a motorcycle here. If you want to like just try and practice on it, I'm working on something so you can practice." And I'm like, "Really? Like you trust me just to like take your bike and just ride it around? I don't even know how to ride a motorbike." She said, "Yeah, sure. You can try it."
Mm.
So I went out and I was like riding it around and practicing. So then I came back in like 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I think I know how to ride it now. Why don't you get on back in the back and I'll ride you around. And she was like, sure. And she just trusted me. She got on back and she like put her arms around me. And I was just riding all around the island on her motorcycle. And I think that was like, to me, that was like the first like real deeper connection point for us,
Mm.
where it felt like, wow, she really trusts me to just lead her around the island. And yeah. Remember that, Annie? She's nodding yes for those who are listening on audio. Anybody else have any questions, comments, reflections?
If you don't mind, bring a little spiritual element to it.
Okay.
One of my favorite descriptions of Jesus is John, his disciple John said that Jesus was full of grace and truth. And when you think about that, that's kind of a yin yang thing. Jesus, of course, manifested in this life in masculine, but we've talked in this group a lot about how even though God uh, is always discussed, or not always, but at least in the Bible is discussed as masculine, Jesus being the perfect human, uh, being full of grace and truth, I think he was probably a perfect balance of those two polarities that we might say represent a masculine feminine balance. Jesus said many, many times that he was not doing his own will, he was doing the will of the Father in heaven, and he only took his directives from the Father. So I mean, there's just so many facets to it when you think about him and the way he walked in the earth. There's no doubt he was a very strong leader, but he also was humble and submissive and took his cues, he said, from his heavenly Father. So, interesting concept to think about, full of grace and truth.
I remember talking with Michael about that subject, Michael Parisi, who was on last week, and we were just saying how, yeah, when you feel like the Christ transmission, so much heart, it's very heart centered, which is a feminine quality.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the masculine quality as well. So I agree. It's like it feels like it's this really well balanced transmission that one receives.
Yeah, we were talking last time about encounters we'd had with Jesus, and I had one once. I can tell about it really briefly. I was having a lot of emotional challenges in my life, and it was creating panic attacks. And I didn't really know what panic attacks even were, so it was very unsettling to me. And at one time, they got so intense. This one time where um, I felt like I knew I was just going to lose consciousness because it was so dramatic. And I remember just like feeling like reaching out to God before I lost consciousness. I did. I blacked out. But the minute I blacked out, I felt this feeling of surrender. Like I had to let go because there was no way I could keep holding on. And I just felt this sense of surrender. And immediately I felt a warm masculine hand in my hand. It was vivid. It was like I was really there, and I saw a white robe, but it was just from like waist down, and the hand came down, and I just completely relaxed, and I think I was blacked out for about 5 minutes or something, but that was a really powerful feeling. To It made me feel like not afraid to let go, like even at the time of death or something.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing, Robin. Jacob, anything you want to share?
Um, well, I really enjoy being a man. I feel like I'm um very strong and very capable and very masculine. And I feel like I also have a really good balance of feminine, although sometimes I get lost in the masculine. And it's just like drive, 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 go. Um, so yeah, appreciating Haley stepping into more of her feminine. Um, really grateful for that. I'm excited about the future of a really good balanced masculine feminine relationship. Um, just so I can reach my full potential as masculine with the proper direction, and the proper yield signs. And when I'm deep in my masculine and I'm just like, let's drive and get there. Um, I may be missing out on a whole lot of things that my intuition's just not even picking up on. Um, so I've seen that happen and realized that happen. So yeah, it's an exciting place of growth. And um, I often like to work hard and work to that place of not exhaustion, but work to that place of where I'm like tired and I need a break. And um, you were mentioning that earlier in the call. It's good for a man to be producing and using his, putting his self to work and his making himself useful. I feel like, and I've been a version of myself that was, would wake up and um, just sit, sleep, watch TV, um, just nothing, just be a pile of nothing all day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, years go by. Um, and that creates a very, there was also drugs involved. This is through my addiction, and um, it creates a living hell. Um, Creates depression, and the lack of doing anything just kind of perpetuates that lack of wanting to do anything. Um, so grateful to be standing strong in my masculine and producing and capable and healthy, and um, proud to be a man.
I mean, that's probably the essential component, right? The underlying thing is just to be who you are, to appreciate who you are and what you are, and kind of access what is your natural place of power, and to express that in the world for the benefit of the whole, for the benefit of all.
Yep.
Annie, question for Annie. What are some of the things that you hear from women that they want more from in men?
Don't really think about that one. Um,
Maybe all your female friends are just super happy with their husbands and boyfriends and have no issues at all.
oh man. Okay. I had to like hone in on because there's a lot of I have a lot of female friends and not all of them are actually in partnership. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of talking about men, but from
Mhm.
like a single point of view. So that's not really.
No, that can work. That's okay. They're included.
I think that generally, um, like across the whole board, like I always butcher this word, but chivalry,
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 Chivalry.
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 Yeah. Yeah, like that is like in many ways like a dying art form. It was like so prevalent in like the 50s or whatever, maybe other generations too, but I feel like as time goes on, it's kind of being lost more and more. Just the simple things of like men slowing down and opening a door for either their woman or women in general, maybe their mom. Just if you see a man opening the door for someone, and it doesn't even have to be for you, like I'm just speaking for myself, that I'm always like, wow, I just feel so grateful in my heart. And I mean, other things like, um, it depends on the, like what's happening. Because, well, I don't want to go too deep, but um, just helping around the house, like domestically, just picking up after themselves, I think is important. It doesn't have to be like constant, but just like just the awareness of, you know what, like I'm gonna fully clean the kitchen tonight because I know that that's important for her to feel like supported in that way so that she can relax this evening, stuff like that. Um, I could keep going. I
Good.
would
Thanks.
say
Thanks for sharing.
generally stuff like chivalry stuff
Hmm.
is a topic of discussion in my.
I think that's one of those things where men were kind of conditioned to be afraid to step into those spaces, but now that's again, I hear that's like shifting now,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know,
that feels like a
culturally.
level of respect for me as well.
I'm
Like
curious, like, what's the fear? The fear
oh,
of it.
the feminist movement,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think.
Right.
I've heard some stories of
I
men
didn't.
getting like chewed out by
Yeah.
opening a door for a woman. She's like, I can open my own damn door.
Oh my.
Like,
Yeah. I didn't even consider that. Suppose, like I suppose over the years.
I have one that I think of often. Sometimes when a man, first meets a woman, or even later on when you have a relationship, a man might like to be like a peacock, where his tail feathers goes up and he wants to impress her, with all the things he's done, and he might want to tell her all these cool things about him, and talk a lot. But I really love it when a man kind of lets that settle down and is genuinely curious about the woman, and looks in her eyes and wants to know about her life and what makes her feel a certain way. That is a really big plus for me. When they have the patience, because it
Mhm.
takes patience to want to even hear, because it might seem like mundane things, but it's important. But a lot of times a woman wants to share something that happens, especially with people. I mean, for me, I'm really interested in people and what's making them do this or that. And it's important for a guy not to think it's not gossip. It's simply you're thinking about people and the different things they do, and taking time to listen, even if it's not something that your interest is there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was going to bring up listening because I hear frequently that that's important. Um, and just more than, I mean, just really listening.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah,
Uh,
to be curious. Mhm.
be curious. I think like presence,
No.
presence and then the ability to listen. We were in the men's mastermind, we were reading a book for a while called The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. And the number one thing that he talked about as far as like what's attractive to women was presence. That was like his number one thing. So if a woman feels like a man is really attentive and listening and present, um, that's where it's at. I mean, that's the number one thing,
mm,
more than anything else. And I think that's what it's interesting because I think that's what women want, but if they don't get that in a conscious, there's like a conscious, I don't know what the word would like, way that that's designed to happen. And if they don't get it that way, then they might try to get it in ways that aren't as conscious or aren't going to get are going to get more negative results, let's say. So, but there's a way where it's like if it's in the proper polarity, I do think like the the man's attention is basically fixated on her and she really values that and appreciates that. And I'll add one more, and then maybe
Okay.
Colette, I think Colette wants to say something after that. So this is a big one. Advice for the guys out there. And it's simple, but if you say you're going to do something, do it. That's simple. That's what I that's what I've heard across the board for if you that's one thing women really don't like. If you say you're going to do something and you don't do it,
Yeah.
it
mhm.
doesn't make them feel safe. So I would even lean towards if you're not sure you can do it, then don't say it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Start
there's
with
a sentence that I really like. It goes, um, if a person's words don't match their actions, trust the actions.
yeah. Okay, Colette.
Yeah, I was mainly just gonna talk on some of the things that the other ladies shared, especially with men like paying attention and asking questions and just being generally interested in
Mhm.
the woman. And one thing I know, I have a friend that's seeing people, and one thing that she always shares is she likes a man that asks questions about her
Mhm.
and is interested in her. But one thing that even I find frustrating is like I don't want to just hear a man that tells me like I'm beautiful or things like that. Like I really want them to get to know me like at a deeper level, not just like that surface like level. So like yeah, I know I'm beautiful, but like out, you know, I have so many be interesting and those deeper quality.
Yeah. You broke up a little bit, but I think we got the gist of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, or like canned lines, like lines they got off a chat GBT or something.
Yeah.
I think it comes back to the presence. Like
Thing
it's
I for it was like oh, these guys were sitting down and whatever chatting, and then he's like, oh, hey, I'm gonna get up and
oh, you're going in and out, we're losing you. Bad reception, I suppose. But yeah, I think that's the quality of the presence. If you're present, then you're gonna ask questions that are individual to that person and makes them feel like they're feel. I mean, I think everybody, man or woman, they want to feel like they're being seen and heard. I guess one of the primary things of relationship. So if
It's
someone's asking,
also it's also really nice when a guy thinks up a date to do something interesting and and all on his own, and creates an evening
yep,
for a woman is awfully cool. Or even, brings flowers. I mean, it sounds trite, but just bringing a little something, is really nice.
yep, yeah, that's the planning and the structure. And I think when the feminine feels like she can just relax and let go, and the the man's got it, he's got it taken care of. That allows her to really relax, and then she really shines
Yeah.
in that space.
And my favorite thing that Paul does for me almost every night is he will spoon me to sleep. And I absolutely love that. I can go the whole day without seeing him, but if I know he's going to spoon me to sleep, I'm good.
Mhm.
I like sometimes, Robin, I like to be the big spoon, and sometimes I like to be the little spoon.
Yeah, yeah, Paul's told me that too. Good to switch it up.
We do switch it up all through the night.
That's nice. Mhm.
Cuddling is definitely a good thing for human beings.
Oh, it's so good. You can just feel it making your
Yeah.
endorphins heal. Mhm.
I think that might be a good resting point. Anything else you want to add, Annie?
I I mean, I think that what you guys are talking about are because I mentioned love languages, and I think touch is one love language, pretty sure. But there's four others, and it's just learning each other's like what really helps that person to relax. Learning that and practicing it is it's huge, and it
Ac-
can be
Acts
because
of service is one, gifts is one,
mhm,
touch is one,
mhm.
like words of affection.
Yep,
That's
yep,
four, and there's one more.
right, right. Can't remember it. But yeah, learning what it is, and maybe you have two, but maybe one's the strongest, and then or maybe you have three, but yeah,
quality
practicing it.
time.
Quality
Quality time. Thank
time.
you, Colette.
Yes, yes.
It's Travis's, so that's how I know that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to share, Colette?
No, Travis actually just got where I'm at, so I'm probably gonna hop off and I
You're
will
gonna
catch
you're
you
gonna
guys
explore
next weekend.
you're gonna explore
Yeah,
experientially.
yeah. It
Awesome.
was good chatting and
Yeah,
look forward to seeing you guys next weekend.
good.
Yay, yes.
Look forward to it.
Woo. Okay, bye.
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 Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate you being here. And this will be out as a replay. Probably, I think Monday is usually when they're coming out. So feel free to rewatch or to share with people who weren't able to make it here tonight. And I reached out to a couple other potential guests on the circle. So stay tuned. You might have some new guests coming in the
Right.
coming weeks.
Nice.
The
And,
more the merrier.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Have a great night. Thanks for being
Yeah.
here. Appreciate
Bye,
y'all.
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Good night. Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
great week.